Hi everyone.
G'day.
And welcome to another Parkside Live. We are so thankful that you are joining us, wherever you're joining us from, and we'd love to hear from you. So if, as we're chatting, you want to leave a comment, or afterwards leave a comment, send us a DM, we'll get back to you when we can. But we hope that our conversation around the practice of power encourages, maybe challenges you tonight.
Yes. Yeah. The practice of power. How would you define power?
Being able to choose to do something.
Yeah, having a choice. Yeah. Or very simply, the ability to do something.
Yeah.
Which I think definitely involves a choice.
Yeah.
And as we move through our lives, we encounter situations where we feel we have power, we have the ability to do something, and we can also find ourselves in situations where we feel or find ourselves powerless. And power can work across all sorts of different dynamics.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a moment in your life where you have felt like you have had power or experienced power?
Yes. When I was involved in like different programs working with people where I would be the one, I guess, making the choice of what they needed to do for the day.
Yeah.
And especially I actually worked in a prison program.
Oh yeah.
So I guess I had power in that I had a choice to go in and work with the inmates, and then I could leave whenever I wanted and they couldn't. So there was a bit of, that was a bit of a, I mean, I didn't really feel like it was a power thing, but I guess there was something there because I could choose when they couldn't.
Yeah, definitely. I was involved in an institution where I was responsible for an organisation of 33 people. And so at any point in time, I had the power to say, I need you to go and do this. And it was their job to do what I said. And I was quite young and mature at the time. And so that power probably was really exciting for me.
Yeah.
But then that power was actually backed up in that organisation. If someone was unruly or disruptive, they would put them, lock them up.
Yeah.
And they would lock them up to the point, and in the lockup, as they moved around, there would be a seam in the footpath, just like a seam walking down.
Yeah.
And they would have to stop at the seam in the footpath, wait till a member of staff came round, and then ask if they could cross the line. And the point of that was to remind people
who was in charge.
Yeah, it was definitely an exhibition of power. I'm not sure it was a great thing, but that was the extent of the power.
Yeah.
And as you're watching this, you can probably relate to either being someone who has experienced power, organising others, or being responsible. Sometimes too, we can experience power against us.
Yeah.
Perhaps you've been driving down the road and you've seen the flashing lights in the rear vision mirror, and you think, oh well, this is I don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But we live in a world where I think power is being expressed or attempted to be expressed all around us.
Yeah.
And we just get caught up in the whirling little eddies of power that we are moving through. And sometimes there are power dynamics in a relationship. We were at lunch with some people the other day, and there was a couple in the relationship there, and you could just see as the conversation moved, one person would make a statement, and the other person would then almost contradict immediately. It was just this real power play, and that was on a personal level. In an employment situation, definitely power.
Yep.
And sometimes you're working in an environment where people are very comfortable saying, if you don't do this, you're out.
Yep.
You don't have. Other people will rely a bit more on the power of personality, try and persuade you, convince you that that's a good idea. And then we look then into the world of governments, and we find that governments are always exercising power. It's been interesting in our country to see that a lot of people who held positions of power, where they're supposed to be elected officials, then a few years later move on to have highly paid positions for large corporations which were not always acting in the interest of power and the interest of people.
Yeah.
So we see power. Now, what we're going to do right here is we're going to actually draw some inspiration from a story. And so if you want to follow along at home, we're reading from the book of Ezekiel right now, chapter 17. And starting at verse 1, it says this. A message came to me from the unspeakable one, which is the term for God there. And he says, Son of man, give this riddle and tell this story to the people. Other versions might say allegory or parable. The idea that you're trying to communicate a concept or an idea using something a little bit more concrete.
Yeah.
We'll see as we go along. So the riddle, the parable, or the allegory says this. Give them this message from the Sovereign One. A great eagle with broad wings and long feathers covered with many coloured plumage came to Lebanon. He seized the top of a cedar tree and plucked off its highest branch. He carried it away to a city filled with merchants. He planted it on a city of traders. He also took a seedling from the land and planted it in fertile soil. He placed it beside a broad river where it could grow like a willow tree. It took root there and grew into a low, spreading vine, and its branches turned up towards the eagle, and its roots grew down into the ground. It produced strong branches and put out roots. Now, this is a bit weird, and if you're watching this, you're probably thinking, what on earth is going on here? And this brings us to an interesting point where when we're reading lots of books, there's a way of understanding them. And the scriptures are no different. There's different ways of understanding them. I came up from an environment where it was quite literal. You took every word at face value and read it. But then right here it says this is a story, a riddle, an allegory. And so these are representing things. And this might seem a long way from us because this is a message to a particular group of people at a particular group in time. And you may be wondering, what is the relevance to our lives here? But
bear with us.
What image stands out to you?
The eagle,
Yep.
and then a plant was growing. Like really, yeah.
And so when you think of an eagle, what do you associate with that?
Something huge, graceful, and powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or like if you're thinking in terms of maybe nations, like Rome in the olden days.
Yeah.
Was it like had that on their banners, but also even in more modern times, like there was another group in history, Europeans, Nazis, who had the eagle, on their uniforms. So that was associated with power, not always good power, but when I think of an eagle, I think of beauty and power.
Yeah.
But people have, I guess, use power for not so great
definitely.
and beautiful reasons.
So there is power at work.
Yeah.
And I can relate to some of those associations too. And as we read on down here, he actually explains, like, this is power.
Yeah.
This is a foreign power that's going to come in, and the image of snatching the top off a tree, it's going to take all the best and brightest you have and take it away. And even that image, we can apply that to the world today, that there are many powers that threaten to come in and take what is best.
Yep.
And you may even look at the power of achievement in your life. We can give our best years, our best energy in an attempt to attain a degree of financial security. I think that is healthy, and I think a good work ethic is great. And yet, if that's what we give power to in our lives, this is the one thing, when we reach that, where do we go?
Nowhere.
Like, what does it give us,
Yeah.
And so we're now recognising these different powers that, it's good to work for that, but there's also more here.
Yeah.
And we see this power here threatens to come and snatch away, and there is a degree of life there. And we can actually take this from this particular allegory and say, well, this actually applies to us too, that we can have powers in our lives and we can seek to align ourselves with those powers because there is a degree of help. You may feel that aligning yourselves politically to a certain cause, well, may help you in some way. And we see that here. But then as we read on this story, there's another eagle appears, and this is actually a picture, again, of a foreign power. But then we come down to the end of this allegory here, and it says this. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I will take a branch. Same thing happening. I will take a branch from the top of the cedar tree, and I will plant it at the top of the highest mountain. It will become a majestic cedar, sending out branches, and birds of every sort will nest in it, finding shelter in the shade of its branches. And the trees will know that it is I, the Lord, who cuts the tall tree down and makes a short tree grow tall. It is I who make the green tree wither and gives the dead tree new life. I, the Lord, have spoken, and I will do what I've said. And so we see there the contrast of military power versus this true life-giving power that not only spreads out low branches, but actually branches that everyone can shelter in. And this contrast is what I want to focus on. You may feel that you need to play the political game at work. Have you ever been in a workplace where there's been a lot of office politics going on?
Yeah, like it's more to do with personalities and stuff, but so that people kind of, talking about things to try and, I guess, big themselves so they can get ahead or pushing someone else aside, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and it's a bit of a survival game.
Yeah.
You find yourselves in those things, and I don't think, there may be one or two people who get some kind of joy or satisfaction out of it, but often we're all just doing what we need to do to survive. And I want to tell you right now that there is a different way. And that when we see this picture here of a green shoot, of a tender shoot, that's actually a phrase that is used before. Something new is taking life. And I want to say that right now, as we live in this world where power pushes against each other and fights for influence on your life, that there is a different way, a new way of living. And this particular thing here refers to God at work, and I just want to jump over to actually a particular prayer that talks about God at work. And this is a prayer that is prayed by Jesus, and he just says this, right, in John chapter 17. He's praying and he says, "The hour has come. Glorify your Son so he can give glory back to you. For you have given him power over everyone. He gives eternal life to each one you have given him. And this is the way to eternal life, to know you, the only true God, and Jesus, the one you sent to earth." And I want to mention that because this is a prayer about power. Someone is saying, I have all power. Now, you might disagree with that, that's fine. But this person is saying, I believe I have all power. Jesus is saying, I believe I have all power. And he says, right now, I want you to show who you are. Glory, not a word we use too much these days. I can't remember the last time you used that in a sentence. No. But we're just talking about the kind of the reflection of how awesome someone is. That when a runner wins that 100-meter race and the crowd erupts, that's their glory, Following a sports team, that line of people coming in wearing your sports team's colours, that's kind of like glory, People saying, wow, that person's so awesome. And so this prayer is about show how amazing you are. And he prays this prayer. And then what happens is that the person who prayed this prayer goes off to a garden, and actually another power is at work. That someone who he once called friend comes into this garden where he's been praying. And they arrive with another group of people. A group of people that are representing the institutions of the day. The political powers, the religious powers, and they approach with weapons, they approach with lanterns, and they seize the person who prayed this prayer. And I want to tell you that this new way of power is completely different. That is not a power that swoops in and snatches and takes away. But that this new way of practicing power is actually about power under control, about power that we just read in this prayer that gives life. A power that gives its life to someone else. A power that is based on the experience of love. And as we try and navigate our way through this world, I think we certainly need love. We need love for people who are difficult to get along with. We need love for those who are on the opposite side of the spectrum. I don't think any of us, very few of us, are at the point where we are in a situation that is going to cost us our lives. And yet that is exactly the form of power that Jesus demonstrates. Not a power that clings on to power, not a power that's seeking its own gain, but actually a power that is seen most incredibly and most beautifully when it gives itself in the service of others. And if you are seeking a new way to navigate the currents of power that are moving through your life, I want to invite you to experience for yourself the power of Jesus' love. I want to invite you to take a step further down that line of being someone who uses their power for the benefit of others. And if that's a step of faith that you're willing to take, then we want to invite you right now to just pray a very simple prayer that begins this experience and this new life for you. And that is simply, Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. If you're ready, pray with us now. Jesus, I give you my life. Give me your life. And if that's a prayer that you pray, we would love to support you on the next step in this process of practicing power in a different way. Drop us a comment, drop us a DM. We'd love to get in contact with you. And if you're passing through Southwest Sydney, we'd love to join us around this table with other friends on a Sunday morning. Thanks for tuning in. God bless you.
Bye.